Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Yoru, and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about the big milestone that is chapter 200 of Chainsaw Man. We finally hit the big 200, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about this chapter because I thought this week's chapter was really good, and it really sets up, I think, the climax of the story as well as some conflict that might happen going forward, which I'm very interested to see. Now, before I go any further with this chapter review, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you guys can be up to date with all my anime and manga, as well as all my Chainsaw Man content that I'll be providing in this channel. It really helps out a lot, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you guys could, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the big 200 chapter of Chainsaw Man. So, right from the get-go, this chapter starts where we catch up with Denji and Asa, which is something that I was pretty much thinking was going to happen because last time we left out with the fake Chainsaw Man as well as the whole Death Devil plot thread. But then we catch up in this chapter with Denji and Asa, and they're just chilling, and you see Asa, like, you know, using her bang on the sun, and Denji's like, what are you doing? He's like, why are you shooting at the sun? He's like, oh, I don't want to get sunburned, so like I'm trying to, you know, get rid of it. And I was just like, oh god, this is funny. I actually chuckled when I saw that. And as all that is happening, we see that they're both kind of chilling. You know, they're just vibing because they're just kind of like on top of this roof, and we see that pretty much Denji just gets her some food, like it looks like a bun or something, like a meat bun, and she's like, did you steal this from the store? He's like, no, of course not. I would not do that. You see, I found a dead person, I grabbed their wallet, and I used that money to pay for, you know, the bun. And then we see that pretty much Asa starts eating it. She's like, you know, grocery food always has all these toxic additives, and you know, it's very bad for you or whatever. And as she's eating it, I'm just like, okay, like I guess this is typical Asa, you know, always being picky with the food. And we see that as all that is happening, she's like, yeah, but like, you're gonna eat it, right? She's like, yeah, I'll eat it. And she's like, yeah, I'll eat it because I'm a toxic woman too. And then she's like, cool. Like that whole scene made me laugh. I was like, what? Like, I was like, just like, I'm a toxic woman. I was just like, oh god, like this is like so funny. I know I'm sure a lot of the people in the fandom are gonna have a blast with that little thing where Asa confirms that she's a toxic woman. And Denji, you know, like, once again, Denji's not beating the toxic women allegations once again. You know, my man has a type, and hey, you know, I know plenty of guys that have that type. But in all honesty, you know, as funny as it is, we see also it cuts back to much more of a more serious tone, where we see as Asa is just like, you know, eating her meat, her food, that she kind of opens up to Denji, and she has this very kind of emotional scene where she's just telling Denji, like, listen, Denji, I'm just gonna go with the flow nowadays. I'm just gonna live, and you know, stop worrying about what's like, stop being paranoid about stuff. Just kind of enjoy life. And Denji's like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, yeah, because I remember you told me, like, you know, living life is just about like going with the moment and just kind of enjoying the ride. And then she's like, wait, I did? And she's like, yeah, you did. And that scene was pretty funny, where she's like, dude, this thing that shook me to my core, you know, that changed me, and you don't even remember saying it. Like, I was just like, oh, Denji, this is funny. But as we get to this moment where we see Asa opening up even more, which is like, you know, Denji, back when I was going to school, you know, every morning I would take a shot, like after a bath, I would just like hate everything. I was always like miserable. I was always thinking like worst case scenarios. Like, my life was just like a cloud, you know, it was just filled with like emptiness, because I always thought to myself, you know, I saw all these people walking around, you know, smiling and being happy, and I was like, what, these people are not going through hell like I am? And that made me pretty much hate everyone else, kind of become isolated. But now in retrospect, you know, I started to realize, like, instead of me thinking, you know, nobody's gone through the hell that I have, you know, I just started to realize, you know, everybody has dealt with their own issues, everybody has their own story, and you know, they just mask it, and you know, I just gotta go through it, and that's pretty much something I gotta do as well. And as she delivers this line, you know, she proceeds to finish her meat bun, and as all that goes down, we see that Yoru takes over once again. And this is an interesting point, because I was like, okay, like, did Yoru take advantage of Asa as soon as that, like, as soon as she gained her strength back, I guess, after eating the food. Was Yoru weakened, and that's how Asa got to the point where, you know, she was able to take over the body? Is it kind of like a mutual relationship where they're both in and out? It's still kind of very vague. We still don't know the specifics of it at this point. We do know that Yoru at some point, you know, she had been taking over Asa's body for a long period of time. But at this point, I'm wondering, is it more like a, okay, I said what I had to say, Yoru, you can take over now? Or did Yoru forcefully take over? That's something that I'm very curious to see how that plays out in the future. But continuing on, we see that as they're, you know, Yoru takes over, she's like, okay, I got my food, let's go get some exercise now. And we see their exercise consists of just killing a bunch of the Chainsaw Man, like, leftover cultists. And, you know, they're just killing them, and Denji's riding in a bike as Yoru just proceeds to, like, you know, bang them all. Pause, I did not mean like that. You know what I mean, you know, for her finger attack. Okay, that sounded even worse. I'm just gonna say, Yoru proceeded to eliminate the Chainsaw Man cultists. But as they're all doing that, you see that they're having a blast. You know, it's kind of very wholesome. It gave me a lot of like a 500 Days of Summer kind of vibes. If you guys ever seen that movie, like, it was more like you know, them vibing, being wholesome, you know, riding on bikes. And you see they're having just a blast. You know, they're just having a great date, because it's pretty much like a date at this point, right? And as all that is happening, we eventually see that as they're riding the bike, they're like, you know, this figure, kind of shadowy figure shows up, and it's pretty much the fake Chainsaw Man. And as that happens, you see that Yoru tries to shoot at him. He deflects the bang, which was crazy. I was like, whoa. And pretty much they will both fall from the bicycle that they were riding. And we see that as the fake Chainsaw Man tells Denji is like, what, the Chainsaw Man should not be riding around in a bicycle with a girl. And he's like, what, the rider, the solo warrior from hell itself being with the girl? Like, what? And like, this is not right. That's not you, Chainsaw Man. And then Denji's like, sorry, you got like the wrong backstory, bub. And I was just laughing. I was like, okay, this guy. I'm very curious to see how their interaction is even going forward, because we see that they have a fight, you know, as Denji transforms into the Chainsaw Man, but they proceed to have a big action scene, and Denji pretty much cuts off one of the Chainsaw Man, the fake Chainsaw Man's arms, and as he does that, we see that pretty much the chapter ends where we see that the fake Chainsaw Man is like, you made a grave mistake, like, and like you made the wrong choice, pretty much. And the chapter ends like that. It ends with, in the middle of the fight, we see that pretty much Denji's down to fight the Chainsaw Man, the fake Chainsaw Man. And I'm curious if we're going to see more powers of this fake Chainsaw Man, because as we saw, Denji cut off one of his arms like pretty easily. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a high diff, like a high difficulty fight for Denji, or is it going to be like a low diff? Because pretty much Denji looked like he took care of it pretty easily. But like I said, you know, the fake Chainsaw Man did deflect one of Yoru's attacks, which is pretty impressive, all things considered. So I don't think he's down for the counter. I think he's probably gonna unveil, like, pretty much as you cut one arm, maybe like two will grow back or something like a Hydra, I guess, or I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out. But I'm very curious to see how this fight plays out, because now I'm wondering that maybe the Famine Devil's gonna show up and try to attack Yoru. And this is where either two things might be, you know, come to fruition. Either Yoru finds out, wait, your family, what was the real family? Like, what is this, like the moment where they realize, like, wait a minute, I made a grave miscalculation in my plans. Yoru does that, or maybe it clarifies, like, wait, I thought your family was in my team. Like, did she know all along that she was Death Devil? We'll get a couple confirmations, I think, once the eventual fights, the matchups happen. Because like I said, I don't think the fake Chainsaw Man is gonna just 1v2 Yoru and Denji, because I think that's gonna be a pretty landslide of a fight. I think he will be disposed of much easily. So I think they're gonna break them apart. And like I said, I think next chapter we'll definitely see maybe Yoru fighting Fami. And maybe that's where Yoru finds out, like, wait, who has been the family that we've been talking to the whole time? And that's when they found out that it was the Death Devil. But yeah, overall, I thought this chapter was really good, and I can't wait to see how pretty much this fight continues on in the next chapter. But with all that being said, what did you guys think about this week's chapter? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys thought it was alright? Whatever you guys thought, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Chainsaw Man, as well as more anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with all that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.